CabraVsPez. En el principio fue cabra versus pez, lo cabra pez. Y cabra versus pez dijo que debería haber cabra y que debería haber pez. No hay alfa ni omega. No hay negro ni blanco. No hay bien ni mal. Solo hay cabra. ¡Cabra! ¡Ay, ay, ay, ay! Y pez. Pez, 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 pez. Y cabra versus pez. ¿Tienes muchas preguntas, sí? ¿Quién es cabra versus pez? ¿Qué es cabra versus pez? ¿Por qué es cabra versus pez? ¿Por qué es cabra versus pez? ¿Por qué cabra versus pez? ¿Por qué cabra versus pez? Pero solo hay una pregunta. ¿Eres tú cabra o eres tú pez? Yo soy cabra versus pez. Bienvenidos a CabraVsPez.
Yes, the verses de 5 cabra y 5 pez has ended. But you can still see Cabra versus Pez. You can still witness Cabra versus Pez on the High Tonight show. You can find it on the YouTube Season 2, Episode 9. It is Cabra versus Pez with one Victor Martinez Jr. Do not celebrate so much. You know it sits on the fence. It is a fence sitter. Why will it not choose GoatVsFish? Why will it not choose? Oh, it is always so pleasant to GoatVsFish, but it is never choosing GoatVsFish. Always saying, oh, it wishes to be so balanced, that Victor Martinez Jr. one, saying, oh, I cannot choose GoatVsFish. I do sit on the fence, forever sitting on the fence. But you should see it. You should see the High Tonight show. Season 2, Episode 9 with the fence sitter Victor Martinez Jr. It is still Cabra versus Pez.
In this verses, GoatVsFish would like to thank all the high fish and high goat and high fence sitters who did meet and speak and verses with GoatVsFish at the verses of 420 goat and fish in a place that is called San Francisco on the Hippie Hill. GoatVsFish was there. GoatVsFish was there. And GoatVsFish was even featured as a moving visage on one people behaving badly, they did call it. They did call it people behaving badly. Of course, GoatVsFish is not people, but you know this because you listen to GoatVsFish. But you can find it on the YouTube, and GoatVsFish shall place a linkage, as you do call it, yes, within the description of this GoatVsFish podcast, yes, and you shall see GoatVsFish as a people behaving badly, as they do say. You shall see it. You shall see it. CabraVsPez, 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 CabraVsPez. And now, the verses. In the beginning, there was GoatVsFish the goatfish, and GoatVsFish said that there should be goat and that there should be fish. There is no alpha or omega, there is no black or white, there is no good or evil, there is only goat and GoatVsFish. You have many questions, yes. Who is GoatVsFish? What is GoatVsFish? Why is GoatVsFish? But there is only one question. Are you goat or are you fish? A goat is a goat and a fish is a fish. A goat is not a fish and a fish is not a goat. This is Goat versus Fish. Goat versus the fish last verses, with many goat versing fish who were not at all goat. The verses continued goat until a sudden increase in fish turned things fish for the goat. Fish did versus the goat, with one fish declaring, "I am a fish, and I am versing the goat. But look at all these goat. I am versus these goat." More on this verses as it develops. It comes from within you. No fence-sitters were present at this verses. A verses of 5 ones took an unexpected verses that began with 2 ones immediately declaring fish. Fish were confident of fish and even made fishy offerings to Goat versus Fish. But just when it seemed all fish, 2 ones chose goat and it was Goat versus Fish. The 5th one also chose goat and the goat did triumph over the fish and there was much celebration. But no sooner had the goat triumphed over the fish did the fish accuse the 5th goat of choosing goat simply to please goat when it was indeed fish. The goat did not deny the fish, and in a surprise verses declared itself fish. The goat did become a fish, and there were 3 fish and 2 goat, and the fish did triumph over the goat. Some fish are calling for the previous verses to be reversed, while many goat insist that the new verses is a false one. All agree that it is Goat versus Fish. No fence-sitters were present at the verses. The verses is very pleasant to Goat versus Fish, with many ones all around the verses choosing goat and fish and spreading the word of Goat versus Fish. Some fence-sitters still sit on the fence, and this displeases Goat versus Fish, but goat remain goat and fish remain fish. Goat versus Fish has recently declared that all the ones should choose goat or fish, and that these are the verses of Goat versus Fish. Goat versus Fish asks you to follow Goat versus Fish at GoatVsFish at GoatVsFish on the Instagram and the Twitter. Some fence-sitters accuse these verses of bias, declaring that Goat versus Fish is simply using the Goat versus Fish podcast not to tell goat and fish about the true verses, but rather to simply get more followers for Goat versus Fish. We have with us here at the Comedy Store Los Angeles, Goat versus Fish. Goat versus Fish, what do you say to these fence-sitterly accusations? False verses, false verses. The fence-sitter may say that asking the ones to follow Goat versus Fish is not Goat versus Fish, but as Goat versus Fish, the goatfish, I am here to share the verses to you that asking the ones to follow Goat versus Fish is very Goat versus Fish, and that all should follow Goat versus Fish. You seem very confident in your verses, Goat versus Fish. Yes, Goat versus Fish would say that it was written. And it was written? And it was written. Please follow Goat versus Fish. Oh, it's fiesta time with Goat versus Fish. And it's back to Goat versus Fish that I'm wanting to go. Come with me to a land and a sea of CabraVsPez. How my corazon does verses with the feeling of verses. I bring you goat and fishy CabraVsPez. That is all for the verses. If any goat or fish or even a fence-sitter witnessed the verses of Goat versus Fish, do send it to GoatVsFish. Y fue escrito, y fue escrito.